Welcome back. I am your host, Sam Price. Tonight on The Price Report, as we told you, every single Wednesday night, we're going to give you a beautiful, awesome person from cryptocurrency, someone with great knowledge, someone with great tech skill, something of that nature to give you insight, to help you in your cryptocurrency journey. And today, I can't wait to bring my guest. I've been on ATB with him before. He's well-spoken. He's an awesome guest to have on. I'm actually really excited to see what he has to say. My man, Corey Costa. Corey, man, thank you so much for coming on in. Thank you for jumping on into The Price Report tonight with me. How's your day going? How you feeling?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Sam, for having me on. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our conversation on ATB. It's really great to have an amalgam of different individuals discussing the intricacies of blockchain and cryptocurrency and and the ideals and visions thereof. So I'm happy to be on here. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, awesome. You know, what I want to talk about is narratives. I'm a big narrative guy. You know, I like watching the narratives play out. And basically late September into October, high coins, like one or two came onto KuCoin. And I was like, what is this high coin? I saw it go up like 100%. And I was like, then I learned it was Fracton protocol, and it was taking these little fractions of these NFTs, and then you could trade the high tokens, which were basically fractions of the NFTs, which I thought was a great idea. And now there's like 25 of them. And so, but that made a good amount of money. And, you know, some of them were low cap, and they made some pretty big, 9Xs, 10Xs. And a lot of people didn't notice. I believe we have something coming up here. So that's why I wanted to discuss liquid staking derivatives. And they surpass lending TVL. The article basically glosses it over, but it basically says, we're starting to see liquid staking take over. It's starting to become a big part of DeFi. We got Lido DAO taking a big chunk of that at 17 million ETH, 0.5 Ether staked. Right now there's currently 17.5 million staked on centralized exchanges such as Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance. But the TVL for Lido DAO is going up. Eventually, it's probably going to surpass these. And what's your take on liquid staking? I'm still new to it. You know what I mean? I'm still kind of deep diving. This is kind of why we're bringing this to the people. This is a new narrative. And we just kind of want to put it into people's perspectives, let them know what's going on. What's your take on it? And have you ever done anything like that? Do you do Lido DAO? Are you into staking? Do you do DeFi? Yeah.
Sure. So it's a very good question. So I think that we need to look at cryptocurrency from a narrative lens, as you highlighted. Throughout the history that I've been in cryptocurrency since 2017, there's been so many different narratives. You had NFTs, you had meme coins, you had DeFi, you had metaverse, you had GameFi, you had all of these different narratives that exist. And I believe that one of these, one of these narratives is going to stay for a while, and that is decentralized finance. Unfortunately, what happened with DeFi over the last 10 months is that it became amalgamated with CeFi, and I think that's a result of amoralistic actors that were in the space that were able to manipulate new users into conveying that centralized finance structures like Celsius, like Genesis Lending, like BlockFi, like FTX were able to they were able to manipulate the populace into conveying that CeFi and DeFi are the same thing when they are inherently not. And what I'm seeing with liquid staking is something very refreshing, is that when you have the Shanghai upgrade with Ethereum, which is supposed to happen this month, when you have 15 million, I believe it's 15 million or 16 million staked that are able to withdraw from the validators are able to withdraw. It's very refreshing, and it brings a sense of public trust within the Ethereum network. And I believe that this will have a domino effect from the Ethereum network to other protocols and other blockchains that do integrate liquid staking onto their platforms. So the fact that decentralized finance structures like lending and like liquid staking that comprise a massive amount of TVL, I believe that we're starting to see the reactionary response back to DeFi, as opposed to last year where CeFi set a precedent and set a larger narrative. We're starting to go back to those first principles of decentralized finance. Have I ever done staking? I have done staking before. I wouldn't necessarily call it liquid staking, but I have staked. I was an advocate for Icon for a while. I was an ambassador for Icon, and I staked my Icon for a while. So I have experience in staking. I've staked Cardano before. And what I like about Cardano is that you can stake and unstake at will, which is I'm a big fan of mine. It's a big fan of mine.
I love flexible staking. Me too.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah. So do I. I'm not a fan of lockups because Yeah, because if you lock up your coins for a month, let's say you lock up your coins, and then a month goes by and you can't sell, or you can't unlock them. Cryptocurrency moves at lightning speed. So I think that notion that you can't unlock your coins for a week, 2 weeks, a month, I think that does it convey a sense of delayed gratification? Yes, but at the same time, you also don't have full control over your finances. So with that being said, though, I do believe liquid staking is valuable, and it's showing that we're seeing that now with the public trust that's starting to elevate into the Ethereum blockchain surrounding the Shanghai fork. So Shanghai upgrade.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that.
No, I mean, this is awesome. You know what I really liked about it, you mentioned, is Icon. It's funny you said that. Like, I don't know if you were like digging into my past, but I was a huge Icon guy in 2017. You know, I saw the videos. You know, I drank the Kool-Aid, man. Like, in Dave Pantera Capital was all over it. I felt like I was on the in. They said it was going to run South Korea, multiple cities.
I was their main ambassador.
I mean, I don't want to make it an Icon day, but we 10x, right? I think I went from 20 cents to $2, right? But I was hoping for more, as most of us crypto people are, right? But are you still watching the Icon train? Are you still in on it? I sold my bags. I have to be honest. I've kind of given. I did like 4 years Icon all day, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'll let that ship sail. You know what I mean?
Funny. It's funny you say that, because in 2017 I didn't get into Icon. I got into Icon in late 2018 and early 2019, and I actually became employed by them. I was in their ambassador program, and then I actually joined and we're on the topic of Ethereum validators. I actually joined a few Icon validator teams, which were called P-reps, and I became one of their main community ambassadors. And I sold back in May of 2021. So I haven't held any Icons since then. Have I done live streams on my own channel about Icon with a few members of the community? Yes, but I absolutely agree with you that it's important to take past experiences and be able to apply them to the future, because we talk about liquid staking here, and you and I both have a past with Icon, and Icon did have a staking integration. So I do believe wholeheartedly that you can take your experience from the past and apply it to the future, and be able to make a presumption on what exactly is going to happen in the DeFi sphere as we start seeing more protocols move to, proof of stake as a result of Ethereum's proof of stake with the merge. I think that we're going to see a lot of value transference into liquid staking as public trust does evolve with the Shanghai upgrade, which is supposed to happen this month.
And you know what's interesting? Someone was pointing out they pushed the upgrade up ahead, right? Like normally they did it with some regulation. It feels like there's some SEC. I don't know if there's like, a little bit of regulation. There's a little bit of, nothing's a coincidence, some ideas behind that. But that brings us to our next topic. We're not going to dive deep into the article, because I want people to read it. But what it basically says is, Binance can't keep its story straight. They're saying that, and where did the article come from? It really is an article on CoinDesk, but it originates from Forbes magazine, right? Yeah. So then we kind of, and then you dig deep and you kind of find out connections there, and you just see. What I want to ask you is this, when it comes to this topic in general. It seemed like, Binance has always been on the outskirts, but they've always danced around U.S. regulations. We always known that, right? Now, I could be, who knows? I don't know what type of guy CZ is. I'm the type of person that I'm always weary. Like, I always protect myself. You know what I mean? Like, if I need protection, I will keep it. Like, I think anything could happen, but I give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, if I don't know you, I believe you're a good person until you do something to make me think you're not. You know what I mean? He worked at McDonald's. I remember reading his life story. I can't believe that. You know what I mean? So I was like, and I guess just because he worked at McDonald's, I can't trust the guy 100%. But the fact that he comes from this humble upbringing always wants me to believe that Binance is doing the right thing. The fact that whenever I see him, he brought people together. I remember one of his tweets, he was saying, like, I don't talk well. I'm not the most popular guy. Like, I'm actually, I'm not even a good public speaker, but I brought 7 billion people, I brought billions of people together throughout the world, which is, he really did with Binance. So
he did.
Is this a FUD article? 100%. Do you believe we need to dive deep? Am I being too naive here with CZ? And, you can lay it on me. I want to know. And just how do you feel about the whole, the cloud that's kind of around Binance right now and the SEC and the regulation.
I don't think you're being naive at all. I think there is a lesson to be learned here, especially what happened, if you remember what happened recently with crypto.com accidentally sending a piece of their reserves to an accidental wallet, for what I remember. And that was a few months back. I think that it's important to allow that. I think it's very crucial to keep exchanges accountable in this space. I think what happened with FTX set a precedent of cryptocurrency entering what I like to call the monopoly era of cryptocurrency.
I'm so sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. I don't normally do,
Sure.
but I just wanted to say one thing I forgot to mention was,
Sure.
do you also think they're attacking them because they want to make FTX look like, everyone they want to make look like FTX isn't in the shady space, so they're trying to make Binance look like, oh, they attacked Binance, FTX. Like, they're trying to FUD Binance almost to save the face for FTX. Like, I just wanted to add that aura there. I forgot to mention that. I'm so sorry.
Sure. No, it's okay. I wouldn't even doubt it. With all of I actually spoke about FTX with Laura Loomer on my channel, and the immense amount of campaign donations that were given to both Democrat and Republican politicians. And I wouldn't even doubt it if there is some underlying nefarious maxim here that's looking to try to save face with FTX, trying to shun Binance as a result of Binance's and FTX's, more along the lines of CZ's and Sam Bankman-Fried's personal feud. But I also believe at the same time, it's very important to keep exchanges accountable, like we saw with crypto.com, sending their reserves to the wrong address. We've had these mistakes that have happened so much with centralized paradigms here, and not to mention the fact that, like I said before, cryptocurrency reminds me very much of the 1890s and 1900s surrounding the monopoly era. So we're in a position right now that's very reminiscent of the 1890s, where you had monopolies in the United States. You had Standard Oil, you had Carnegie Steel, you had you had Vanderbilt. You had all of these different moguls of their particular space, and you didn't have any ability to break up monopolies until the antitrust laws came in. So what I'm seeing now is the same narratives around monopolies. Like, if you look at Binance right now, Binance is the largest exchange in all of blockchain. Binance holds a massive amount of share in trading within the realm of centralized exchanges. And if we can't keep Binance accountable, and being the largest exchange, how can we create a sense of accountability from a ubiquitous standpoint throughout the entirety of cryptocurrency? So I don't think this is a FUD article. I think it's absolutely necessary to be concerned about a story that you convey one thing and then another thing about 1.8 billion USD. See, that's $1.8 billion. That's a lot of money. And you're not going to, and if you can't keep your story straight surrounding this, I don't think CZ is a nefarious actor. I think that with what happened with SBF, even if he was somewhat amoralistic, I think that would be kind of a wake-up call that, oh, if I get caught being nefarious, I will get caught. Will I go to prison? That's yet to be seen with Sam Bankman-Fried. I still don't think he's going to prison. But at the same time, I do believe that it's very crucial for us as a space to be able to understand and be aware where funds are going from different wallets associated with exchanges. Because if there's no accountability, then actors that are amoralistic can roam free in this space and act as they want.
So I like to play, devil's advocate a little bit, even for myself, just to see how the conversation goes. But like, the idea is this, right? We know now that if you appropriate funds, like if you say you have the funds, but you only use a small amount to fractionally reserve them, right? And I know your history. When you brought up Standard Oil, me and you, I think we could have a long talk about Fritz Tyson and the United Kingdom. And wow, your history, man, because I had to dig deep to get into Standard Oil back in the day. But so man, that's another. I can't wait to have you on again.
Absolutely.
I love this. This is why I love these shows.
I went to school to be a history teacher.
Yeah, so there you go. You were just yeah. So the idea behind it all, though, is if isn't that how the banking system works too? So like, why can't he run like the banking system? Now, I would also go back and say, well, crypto was supposed to be different, right? We were supposed to actually not run like the banking system. That was the whole point. We were supposed to actually have these types of checks and balances in place, so we didn't crumble and look like the shady, parasitic system. So, what do you say to those both two kind of, acquisitional ideas that I'm going after? Like, one is, why can't he operate like the banks do? You know what I mean? And two, when will we actually get our stuff together in crypto and not act like the banks do, right? Like,
absolutely. I hope and pray that we don't become a 1907 type of Jekyll Island type incident where the Great Panic of 1907 justified the inception of the Federal Reserve in 1913, the income tax in 1913 as well. So I really believe and wholeheartedly hope that we have this notion where cryptocurrencies do not act like the exact financial institutions that the cyberpunks sought to stay away from central banks, stay away from the nation states. I really believe that it's crucial in a variety of different methods, in a variety of different ways, that cryptocurrency stays true to its DeFi first principles. And that's why it's very refreshing to see, bless you, it's very refreshing to see that DeFi with liquid staking is on the rise. And I'm really hoping that the Shanghai upgrade will bring about more public trust with DeFi type paradigms rather than centralized finance paradigms, because I don't want cryptocurrency to become like central banks. And do I believe that when do I think cryptocurrency will get its act together? I think that just like the corruption in central banking and legacy finance, I think there will always be a particular portion of blockchain and cryptocurrency that really don't have its act together. There will always be issues in this space. There will always be novices that amoralistic actors will prey on, and even expert cryptocurrency investors that will be able to be preyed upon by amoralistic actors. Like the one thing that SBF was able to utilize was this notion of humility and effective altruism, and that ability to convey a sense of benevolence as a means to a nefarious end. So I'm hoping, yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that blockchain and cryptocurrency is able to have that, I guess you could say, that yin and yang of both ethical actors that are able to counteract the nefarious actors. And I would like to hope and believe that CZ is a benevolent actor, and I don't see right now any reasons why, but it does raise questions when a portion of that $1 billion went to Alameda Research, and Alameda Research, as we know, is collapsed. It's a collapsed hedge fund now that was associated with FTX. So it wouldn't surprise me that there is this type of centralized conglomerate between the largest exchanges, and that's been proven true in the past. I'm just hoping that from FTX, these titans of the cryptocurrency industry realize that there is no such thing as an exchange that can't collapse. So that's my hope.
I always try to look at the silver lining, and the good thing is usually you've bottomed when something, an exchange has collapsed. So like, I'm just we've had that check. Like we can kind of, like that goes along with a bear market bottom for Bitcoin. So,
yep.
That's just the one funny thing that I want to bring out about it all. Right. And our last topic, which kind of brings us back to the meeting today, right? We had some Fed meeting, and we're going to have, CPI data coming out again. And so the Fed's original mouthpiece shatters the strong labor market propaganda and casts doubt on job openings. So basically this is saying is that the strong labor market, proposed by our, basically our government today, they're saying, hey, the labor market's strong, we're bouncing back. But when you look at the data and you look at Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, we don't see a demand for the jobs, right? And when, people are paid to stay home for 2 years at a time, yes, there's going to be people bouncing back in, but is that really a strong labor market? Like, if you don't eat for 2 weeks and then you have a sandwich, are you full? Yes, for the day, but it doesn't mean you ate a lot of food, right? Like, so, also, I believe they've been printing way too much money.
Yes.
And because they printed way too much money over time, we have a hole that's just too big. It's like a dump truck dumping dirt, and you're trying to take a little shovel and try to say that you're going to bring, try to, pull back inflation. So, what are your thoughts on that? You being an historian, I'm super excited to hear what you have to say. I mean, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I believe you can learn anything from people, all walks of life, and I consider you like a mentor of that since you've had this data and you have so much historical research. I can't wait to see what you have to say.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that question. I think it's crucial to be able to analyze economics from a standpoint where the data actually proves fact rather than what the mainstream media or what a political entity tries to convey as fact. So I appreciate that question. So I want to go to first your point about money printing and how it has had a detriment throughout history on different economies. One of the main reasons why Greece and Rome fell was hyperinflation. One of the main reasons why the French Revolution happened was hyperinflation. A lot of people tend to they tend to push to the side that one of the main reasons why the American Revolution was won was because of France. It wasn't because of it wasn't because of the Continental revolutionaries in the Continental Army. It was because of the French that was able to assist America, well, the 13 colonies at the time, to become an independent nation away from Britain. And how were they able to finance that? Well, at the same time, about 20 years prior, you had the 7 Years' War between Britain and France. So France was already in crippling debt as a result of that. But then when you create a hyperinflated paradigm where Louis XVI said, you know what, the way I'm going to finance the American Revolution is I'm going to hyperinflate the economy by just printing more money. I'm going to print more money to be able to finance this revolution. And as a result of that hyperinflation, you had an economy in France where, where their currency all but collapsed, which was one of the main reasons why the French Revolution happened nearly about 8 to 10 years later.
Was that the florin at the time? Was it the florin? Is that what it was called?
I believe it was the florin. Yeah. I believe it was.
But we'll have to backtest that data.
Yeah, I believe it was the florin. Yeah. But this really created a paradigm of a hyperinflated economy that changed the landscape of Europe. It brought about Napoleonic Wars, the Reign of Terror, the Vendée, where 300,000 peasants were killed in France. So how has this come? Why does this have to do with America? Well, it has to do with America because when you create a model, when you create a government, when you create an economic paradigm where the state is 100% or nearly 100% in control of the money supply and the demand of the labor market, it becomes a major issue. And it becomes a major issue starting. So in 1907, I brought up before, there was the Great Panic of 1907. And one of the main justifications for the inception of the Federal Reserve was that Great Panic. It was the idea that, okay, government should come in and be able to regulate the economy as a result so that these panics never occur again. And funny enough, after 1913, 16 years later, you had Black Tuesday, you had the start of the Great Depression. So that's a little debatable that the government is able to stop economic panic and decline. So as a result of that, we also see the Biden administration, in my opinion, trying to save face and trying to create reports that there are, in regards to the economy, that the economy is doing well, that unemployment is down, that that job openings are abundant. But at the same time, you can't sit here and say that the job market is healthy when when you have a quasi recession that we're in, where we had two negative quarters of GDP growth, a GDP decline, which is the actual definition of recession. And simultaneously, you have an issue here where there's an inflation rate that's the highest it's been for quite some time. Even in England, it's the highest it's been in almost, I believe it was a 40-year high. So when you have these type of statistics coming out that the economy is doing better than ever, the job market is coming back, and yet there is this massive pendulum between the supply of jobs and the demand of them, it raises questions on why the demand is not there for this influx of jobs. And I believe one of the narratives that the Biden administration conveyed quite well was that the economy, the job market was so strong because of the fact that, well, people were returning to work after the COVID-19 pandemic. Everyone was laid off of work from 2020 to I would dare say mid to late 2021. So I believe that this era of economic policy is very skewed because you have to take into account what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically with layoffs, with businesses closing, with people going on unemployment, a massive influx of unemployment. And I also believe that the fact that the Federal Reserve has been hiding the fact that we are in a recession, and that's the reason why they've been trying to change the definition of it. You don't have to change the definition of something if that particular thing is that you're worried about is not in existence at the point. So I believe that the narrative here is that there are multiple facts here that really prove the point that the labor market is actually, in my opinion, a lot worse than what the Biden administration and mainstream media is trying to convey.
I mean, you brought up a lot of awesome things that made me think, right? Yes, printing the money, continental dollar, right? They printed the continental dollar to zero. They did the same thing there, right? They thought they could print us out of the war. It doesn't happen. You also made me think of something that I read about 18 months to 2 years ago, that fiat currency actually destroys the human race. And you'd be like, wait, what am I saying? Well, listen to this. You mentioned something. You said the king was able to keep the war going, right? How? He was able to just get money from central banks, right? Because they wanted him to stay indebted to the central bank, so they were going to continue to let him take money that he couldn't afford to take. Then he could spend it, and then his entire country would be on the till for the rest of their, for centuries to come, right? That's the plan. You want countries to go to war, so the central banks will incite you to go to war, so they can bankrupt both countries, and then they own you, basically. That's what they want you to do. And
yes.
Wars, like a regular war, say me and you had to go to war. I hope we never do. But two men have to go to war back in time, right? I think me and you are going to be on the right side of history. But when it comes to my idea is we go to war, and if I run out of money, like my troops, I can't send any more troops, right? I lose the war. I have to wave the flag. I may lose 1,000, 5,000, whatever, right? But if a central bank can give me money and I can keep printing, I can shred my soldiers to zero. Like I can continuously send people to death. Like, so the more money you have, the more soldiers you can send to death. So throughout history, central banks have shredded the human race by appropriating war over and over again and giving banks, kings money that they should never have had access to, right? And then it has actually, detrimentally hurt us. Like we've actually lost a lot of people, just for money purposes. So you made me think of that. What's your take as an historian on that idea, how war is kind of perpetuated with the fact that we can just keep printing fake dollars? Like if we had to dig the gold out of the ground to pay the soldiers, we wouldn't be able to go to war so much. But because we can print free dollars, we can go to war all day long,
You bring up a great point about war, and I want to use World War II as an example. There's a conflicting notion between historians on whether or not it was FDR's New Deal policies that got us out of the Great Depression, or it was World War II's a state of total war economy. And I believe it was not the New Deal. I believe the New Deal set different things in place, like the Agricultural Adjustment Act, like the Civilian Conservation Corps. There's no question that FDR's New Deal program, it was an overextension of executive power over the economy in an attempt to save the economy. But realistically speaking, what saved the American economy and the global economy at the time, I believe personally, was the total war economy, was the necessity of the war machine to be funneled by employment, by labor, by economic mass, by economic value. And we see that throughout history. I mean, look at the United States, for example. I mean, how many wars has the United States fought over the last 40 years and justifies it through freedom when it's really just about the petrodollar? That there is so many reasons why economics and money come into play surrounding, excuse me, surrounding the perpetual state of war. I mean, even back in classical antiquity, I mean, one of the main reasons why territorial acquisition for empires through imperialistic tendencies, for example, like Rome in Punic Wars with Carthage, was because you want territorial resources to expand your empire, to expand the ability for you to display dominance. And the way you do that is the ability to have a strong economy by extending the economic reach that you have. And we see that, excuse me, we saw this in the Roman Empire. We saw this even, for example, there was a way that not even war, but death played a role in workers' rights during the Black Death, where serfs and peasants, there were so many of them prior to the Black Death, but then the Black Death happened, and serfs were able to, from an economic standpoint, garner more power. This class warfare that was happening, the serfs were able to garner more power over lords because there were less serfs to be able to work. Maybe there was 500 serfs on your manor, but because of the Black Death, now you only have 50. So the serfs were able to demand more economic power as a result of that. So sometimes economic warfare is not in bullets or swords, but it's also in workers' rights and the ability for the economy to work for individuals that are of the lower classes rather than just the upper classes. But we see this also in, for example, Iraq. Like we went to war in Iraq for after 9/11 was justification, but and they said that the WMDs were over there. But what was the real reason why we went over to Iraq? What was the real reason why this notion?
Because Saddam Hussein had all the UFOs that he got. You know, they wanted to take all the UFOs that he got. You know?
No, but it does convey a point that, for example, another great example is the Civil War. Is one of the main reasons why the South was so threatened by the North and seceded was because their entire economy was an agricultural based economy based off of slavery, obviously, and they seceded because that type of economic mass surrounding slavery and agriculture was being threatened by the North's more manufacturing and industrial paradigm. So and as a result of that type of economic schism between North and South, you had the bloodiest war in American history happen, where in the Battle of Gettysburg, over 50,000 people died in 3 days. And you had Antietam, you had the Battle of Shiloh, you had the Battle of Vicksburg. So you have all of these wars just in, you name classical antiquity.
He's a true historian right here, everyone. Like, get your notebooks out. Like, you are taking class right now. This is History 101, man.
No, I appreciate
got PST that. From being in ancient history when you said the Punic Wars.
And it really goes to show that a lot of reasons why empires expand is a result of economic reasons. And economic reasons and economic necessity propels individuals and propels empires to expand. So that, and you also see that through schisms throughout the world, like the American Civil War, for example. That economy plays a crucial role on why the North and the South had a schism.
Now I got a new bumper sticker, right? And I think you might like it. It says, "Bitcoin is the new colonial script." You know what I mean? It's like a very nerdy joke, but it's like, man, can we get back to basics? You know what I mean? We had our own form of money. We were doing good. We didn't need the central banks. Things were going well. Abraham Lincoln made the greenback dollar. You could have used it up until 1971. A lot of people don't even know it existed.
Yep.
Corey, man, you just blew my mind. I thought we were going to discuss a few topics, have fun, and you actually took me on a time-traveling adventure from the past, present, and future. Like, this was awesome. Like, this blew my mind. I hope the viewers enjoyed it. They got way more than they bargained for. Man, you were awesome. Well-spoken. You were listing, numerous battles off the top of your head, like in sequential order. Like, man, you're amazing. You blew my mind. Every time I do one of these shows, I always know that we're gonna talk about something that I never thought we would talk about. and just really surprised me. So this is why I do it. I really, really love that you took the time to come out to my channel. Have the last words, please. Tell everyone where they can find you, what you do. Do you live stream? Do you make content? Do you do spaces? Just let them know everything. Where can we find you? Where does Corey live? Where can we keep pushing the Corey train? You know?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for those very kind words. I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate how we met on ATB. It was a very great discussion that we had. And I appreciate what you do as well. You could find me on Twitter at CoreyCosta123, Corey Costa 123, and on YouTube, Corey Costa's Crypto Coins. What I usually do are live stream interviews. I've interviewed some of the most prominent influencers in the space. I've had Charles Hoskinson on. I've had BitBoy on. I've had Crypto Beatles on. I've had Wendy O on. I've had David Gokhshtein on. I've even had political journalists on, like Laura Loomer a couple of weeks ago. So my strength is interviews, but I also do some content surrounding YouTube Shorts and quick tutorials surrounding how to do things maybe on MetaMask or how to add specific coins on your MetaMask. So you could find me on Twitter at Corey Costa 123, and you could find me on YouTube, Corey Costa's Crypto Coins.